Is Joanne Legler, and I am the Director of Admissions for the MBA for Executives program at the Yale School of Management. Thank you so much again for joining us today. We know everybody's lives have been really quite upended given our global health crisis. And we hope that you, your loved ones, your coworkers are all healthy and well during this very unprecedented time. So you'll be joined today not only by me, but by my colleague Maria Stutzmini-Marquez, who serves as the Associate Director of Admissions for the MBA for Executives program. And our goal in the next 45 minutes is to give you a pretty high-level overview of our program, offer information about the upcoming admission cycle, and then of course answer any questions that you might have. So we're going to go ahead and do that in the Q&A section. If you have any questions at any point, you can go ahead and fill those in at any time, and we'll get back to those questions at the end of our session together. Welcome to Yale. This, I think, is a really great photo of the reading room at Sterling Library on our main campus, centrally located right in the middle of the Yale University campus. And for us, it's a real symbol of knowledge at one of the oldest universities in the entire country. We're over 300 years old, and we absolutely acknowledge that the indigenous peoples and nations have stewarded or have been part of this land and been part of this area of the country for generations, a long time, and we really tried to steward our knowledge of that and respect for that culture and that history through generations of Yale being in existence. And so we really do have a lot of honor and respect for that sort of enduring relationship that exists between those people, nations, and then the land that Yale is a part of as well. We've really built a legacy in educating leaders who serve across sectors, including government, public sector, and the private sector. This absolutely includes people you've heard of, countless political leaders, Supreme Court justices, Nobel Prize winners, and world-renowned experts across industries and sectors. As old as Yale is, the School of Management is actually quite young. We are one of the youngest graduate programs at Yale University, and we've really been the fastest growing one. So our MBA program, our executive program, has really blossomed over the last 10 or so years, and we're really proud of that fact. We are educating folks who are going out into the workforce very immediately, and we really think that our innovative curriculum, our relevant programming, and our mission is really unique in that space, and frankly now, more than ever, really critical. So here's our agenda for today. It is on the short side, but we're going to dive into a lot of content here. We're going to give you a very high-level overview of our program. We're going to invite you to return back to us over the next few months as you consider an application for the class that will start in 2021. We'll dive deeper into things like our areas of focus, our community, and the admissions process. Today, we're going to try to sort of interweave the two topics up the top here, give you an overview, and then talk a little bit about how that sometimes impacts how we think about things in admissions, give you plenty of time for Q&A, and then leave you with some next steps and advice as you move along the journey towards your MBA. When we talk about Yale and we talk about the Yale School of Management in particular, any discussion is always going to include our founding mission, which is to educate leaders for business and society. These are leaders who have a strong sense of purpose, who have the ability to think very broadly about the problems that business leaders face today, certainly, and will face tomorrow as well. It pretty much drives everything that we do here. Simply put, at SOM, the mission matters. Our students are really aiming to try to expand their personal, their professional capacity, create lasting change and impact within their teams, their organization, their communities, and maybe even at a more large-scale level, like at a national or even a global level. We think the most successful leaders are going to have to address these challenges that can't be solved by business alone, and they can't be solved without business either. So our mission really motivates faculty, staff, students, but it also provides us with a long-term strategic guidance about what our school is, who our school is, and it definitely informs the decisions we make on a daily basis. I think as far as our community goes, really for us, you won't find a student here in the MBA program or MBA program or other master's program who doesn't know what the mission is. Everybody is going to be able to rattle it off pretty easily if you ask them. And we're so lucky now to have alumni working in the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofit space, and government. People who are really making a difference in their organization while working for the greater good. I think about a lot of adjectives that we could use to describe our community, and that again includes our students, staff, our alumni, and they're pretty easy for me to rattle off, and it's certainly not an exhaustive list. I think our students are engaged. I think they're looking at our program as one that they feel is non-transactional, and that's what we aim to offer in the program. I find them inspired by the program, by each other, but I also personally find them inspiring to me as well, and what my purpose is and my mission here in my job. They are mission driven, we've talked about that. I think they're quite passionate about their MBA program, about their experience here in our program, but I think they're passionate about what they do in their lives, both personally and professionally. They are truly interested in solving the complex issues of our time, particularly in their specific areas of focus and their specific professional verticals. I also find them generous. I find them willing to help one another out. They are inclusive. It's a small program and every person matters and needs to feel as though they are included. And I think our students go to great lengths to make sure everybody feels like they're home when they're here at SOM and in the MBA program specifically. So I think that's a nice introduction to our community, but I think it also begs the question, or maybe brings up the question of, okay, well then who are you looking for? Who fits for this program and who should be applying? And I think that's a little bit of a complicated question because there are some very basic pieces here. Of course, it's an MBA program. So we are looking for those that are leaders in their space, but people who bring a great deal of experience to the table as well. Kind of more practically speaking, these are folks who are probably mid-career, who already have some management or leadership experience, whether that's a project, a team, or a whole organization. But it has to be at a point in their career where the MBA in this executive format with this peer group makes the most sense. In terms of a demonstrated career evolution, we're looking for folks with a strong trajectory. If you don't already have leadership experience, then you're signaled toward management or leadership experience. You're already taking on responsibilities within your organization, and now you need the MBA to build that business acumen, or perhaps you're in line for a new opportunity and you want to be prepared. Maybe that next job requires an MBA, and you've got to be able to check that box. And we understand that that might be a motivation for the MBA. And we'll talk a little bit more about the different layers of that motivation as well, but these again are sort of the basics. We really do look for folks who are trying to accelerate in their career, who have that desire to grow in their capacity, to serve, to have further impact on a much larger scale, and who want access to the resources and opportunities that are going to ensure that growth and that impact moving forward. So at the very basic level, this is a good profile for somebody who's considering almost any executive MBA program, and the one at Yale SOM specifically. So what does this look like? Well, we're in definitely unprecedented times here, but we thought it was probably a really good and fair thing to do to show you what things look like here at SOM these days. As you probably know, we have had to move to a model that's hybrid in nature and includes students in the class of 2022 who started their residency just about a week ago with the option to come in person or to participate remotely. The class of 2022, regardless of how they're participating though, is on par with other classes that we've had in the past. It numbers 77 students total. Usually we bring in a class of somewhere between 72 and 78 students. This year, on average, they have 13 years of work experience. About 31% are female. 40% hold advanced degrees already. We are lucky to be part of an inclusive group that includes 16 citizenships, and students are about 36 years of age. You can read more about our class profile on our website. We've just published all of this great information and published a great news story that not only gives you these great statistics, but also goes a little bit deeper, tell you a little bit more about the stories of some of the students in our class. And I encourage you to keep up with us on our media, on our website. Over the next few months, we'll be profiling some of our students. But I think I'd like to also just point you to this photo, which was taken by Maria, to really give you a sense of how things are going in the classroom these days. And as you can see, we've taken great measures to ensure the health and safety of our students. So this is a great photo of a classroom. You can see plexiglass shields here. You can see that we've put each student's picture in front of their shield so they're easily identified. You can see everybody's wearing a mask. And then you can see a little bit in the middle bottom part here that the professor has access to those that are participating remotely as well. You can even see a little bit in the left-hand corner of the outline. That's the professor's sort of zone of comfort and safety, and they'll have to be there in order for them to, again, maintain our standards for health and safety. So Maria and I have both been in the building over the last several days to help support our programs, staff, and I have to say it's really been a pleasure to welcome the students in person and to watch them navigate this new program in these very uncertain times. And we're really proud of what we've been able to offer here. So Maria, I'm going to turn it over to you, if you don't mind. Talk a little bit about what our program looks like on a practical level.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne, for sharing so much about the community and about the mission, and certainly about where we've come during these times. So just to share with you what our program looks like from a logistics standpoint, I'll go through a number of different items, hopefully as high level as possible. So the time that you're required to be on campus is really the full 22 months. This program operates on an every other weekend schedule. So right now, our students are in their July 2021 2-week period, which has been really shortened to a nine-day period for this round, but they will move into an every other weekend schedule starting mid-August. At the end of their first year in June, we have a global week, which we'll speak to a bit later in the presentation today. And of course, you know, given the circumstances and travel restrictions, we will probably innovate and work with that as well. And then kicking off the second year in July, there's another week in residence, which actually on Monday next week, we'll be inviting our class of 2021 back to campus so that they can get started with their focus area courses. Overall, it's a 22-month program with about 4 weeks in residence, and you're expected to have about 60 days out of the office. So that would be those Friday days and some Thursdays in May. But this is an in-person program, and we hope that it will continue in this fashion. And as you see, we've gone to great lengths to ensure that our students can be here on campus, and we feel very privileged to have the resources and the staff and the great minds coming together to do that. So what does it look like if you're going to commute? Of course, as Joanne mentioned, Yale University is located in the heart of New Haven, Connecticut, which is really equidistant from both New York and Boston. So what I'll share with you is that most of our students, about 70%, are coming from DC to the Boston area, at least within that region. And then we have a number of students who will travel internationally, a small portion, and then certainly those who are coming from places as far out as California, Texas, the Southwest. We have a couple of new students from Colorado and the Denver area, which is really exciting to see some of that growth. You can travel here by car, by train, by plane, and you know, students find ways to team up and travel together to get to New Haven. New Haven itself is actually really robust in its offerings for art and entertainment. There's certainly a huge foodie scene here, and you know, if you haven't tried the pizza in New Haven, I mean, you really haven't tried pizza. So there's some great locations here, but it really does offer. I mean, Yale has so many resources, and you know, our students have so much access to some of these unique opportunities, but the community itself is quite rich and unique. And so we invite you, if you haven't been here, to find some time when it's safe and there's more openness to travel here. And so with that, you know, Joanne shared with you kind of the visual of what our classroom looks like. 3 years ago, we piloted what we call the extended classroom, which I think really served us quite well when we made the transition from being fully in person to being fully online last spring. And so our students have always had in the last 3 years, have had an opportunity to remote into the classroom when, you know, there were inclement weather, or there was maybe something very important to them with work or family related, or there was an emergency they had to be in their hometown for. So we have policies around this, but there is, like Joanne mentioned, state-of-the-art technology throughout Evans, I think even more so now. And really the intention in offering the extended classroom so that students could remote in to their courses was really to offer some flexibility, because we know that things come up and we wanted to make sure that students had access and weren't missing out. But I think the beauty in all this has been that, professors and our students have been able to create such a wonderful dynamic with each other online, and it really mirrors so much of how they've connected during the classes. So Joanne and I both were able to be supportive of that transition, and we learned so much about not only our students, but also to hear how much experience they're coming in with. It was really wonderful to see that live. So let's jump ahead and talk about what the class weekends look like. We start, or at least we've adjusted our schedule. So what you're seeing now is a bit of an adjustment so that for those who are remoting in to classes on the West Coast aren't having to be up and online before dawn. So we start classes Eastern time at 9 a.m. You will have, and then we end at about 5:30 on Friday. And then on Saturday, we start at 9 and we end at about 4 p.m. What you'll notice is that lunch is happening on both days, so that's provided. And then there's also a colloquium opportunity, which we bring in a number of different leaders and industry subject matter experts to really share more about their industry, their organization, maybe some challenges they faced, and students really are required to be there and also really enjoy kind of the diversity of knowledge that's shared. But what you should take away from this is that you'll take 4 classes on every weekend, and know that there are going to be co-curricular, extracurricular opportunities, whether that's a trip across campus to visit some of the sites. As you can see, I am at Sterling, or at least outside of Sterling Library, so that would be one of the visits. And then we also have wonderful faculty and staff from around campus who will provide workshops, and we can dig a little bit deeper into that as we move forward. But this is your sample class schedule. And then to give you in the next segment, we're going to talk about all of our curriculum. I will focus on the integrated core curriculum that takes place in the first year. Joanne will talk more about the area of focus and also the advanced management component. But this is really to give you kind of an overview of how year 1 and year 2 look. What you'll notice is that we have leadership development throughout, and as well as the colloquium speaker series, which I just mentioned. It's really important to note these 2 things because if we are going to build leaders and educate leaders for business and society, that leadership development is happening through every class, through every interaction, through different methodologies. And, it's just important to note that it is a huge part of our curriculum and our structure altogether. So about what you'll notice here is that the academic experience is 75% general management, and 25% of it will be focused on either healthcare, sustainability, or asset management. So you'll have the opportunity to go further with that. And I'm going to share with you something that's quite unique to Yale SOM and to our program as well. So you've probably heard about the full-time program and kind of some of the advanced management courses as you've read through some of the materials. But to dive and to really put a finer point on our curriculum, in your first year, you will study business and learn business acumen through the organizational stakeholder perspective. This is so different and unique and innovative. What it does is it shifts away from learning and being educated through functional roles or segments, right? So we know that in business, oftentimes things can be siloed. We don't necessarily operate like that in the real world. In the real world, we're connecting with our marketing teams and communications. We're working with operations. We're working with the executive leadership team. We're working with our employees and hiring. And then there's innovation that's happening through COVID and through different initiatives that come up. And as our companies have to shift and change with the market. So we teach by stakeholder perspective, which means each of the different names that you're seeing in these circles, these are the actual names of courses. So you'll get niche information about the customer experience and developing value propositions that last, and how do you really get to understand your customer and their needs in order to provide products and services that are going to continue to move your organization forward. So we think it's quite unique. It culminates in something that's called the executive course, which is typically taught by looking at raw cases. So you'll be shared, you will learn from 6 different raw cases during that class, and you'll utilize all of the different information that you've gained through the integrated core curriculum in that culminating class. To put a finer point on how things are taught by a functional perspective, if you take sourcing and managing funds, which may be more along the lines of the CFO vertical in an organization, thinking about, how are you going to utilize the investment funds that have been granted to your organization, and then how do you make smart and strategic decisions around your priorities. So you'll utilize information from finance, strategy, competition, and certainly accounting. So this is just a brief overview. I would encourage you to learn more about this. I think it's very unique to our program and the school itself. And again, if we're educating leaders for business and society, we want to make sure that they lead with empathy and have understandings across all parts of the organization. To move a bit more quickly through the next part of your first year is the Global Network Week. We have co-founded what's called the Global Network for Advanced Management, which now hosts 32 top business schools across the globe in 30 different countries. And we leverage the network in several different ways. We build collaboration between administration, faculty, and students, and we do some level of exchange. Sometimes there's development of raw cases and surveys. We host online, small network online courses, but to really share with you what your experience will look like is every week in June, about 15 of these partner schools host their very own class. And so our students get to choose from a number of schools. They usually pick their top 3 and are usually granted one of those. And so they might take a class called The Future of Food at Smurfit Business School in Dublin, Ireland, or Social Innovation at Agade Business School in Mexico. We've had students who have taken classes on the Super Aging Society at Hitsubachi in Japan. So there's a number of different opportunities, and you're not only studying with other Yale students and your classmates, but you're also studying with other EMBA students from across these different programs, which makes it a really, truly global experience. And so as I close out the end of the first year, this another really unique feature of our program are the different focus areas. And Joanne, I know that you have a lot to say about these.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is, as Maria mentioned, one of the more unique opportunities that students are offered at our program in particular. It's not entirely a general management program, and instead we will ask you to apply to, and then of course go through the curriculum for one of 3 areas of focus in asset management, healthcare, and sustainability. This actually started as a healthcare MBA way back in the day, and as we looked around and looked for opportunities to expand the program, we really leveraged the resources and strengths of the rest of Yale University to come up with the opportunity for students to study deeply in the other 2 areas of focus. So we'll start alphabetically. Asset management is our first area of focus, and it's really designed for those with a strong background in finance and investments and who really want to use what they learn in the program and their skills to help other people really prepare and build for a strong financial future. Questions that our students are asking and trying to answer are around ethical investing, meeting their clients' needs really in strange times like the one we're in now, pricing services, staying ahead of the competition, forecasting global trends, but they're really at the same time trying to do this in a way that adheres to the regulatory requirements that are out there for investments and for finance. So we definitely teach theory, we teach some practice, there's behavioral science around finance slipped in there as well, and it's really all essential for us, for anyone who seeks to better understand the modern financial markets. You're seeing a picture of Robert Ibbotson, who teaches finance more broadly here. He actually teaches the investor class in the core curriculum, which you also have an opportunity to take, but it's a good way to show how faculty across disciplinary areas find their way into the EMBA program through both the core curriculum as well as through our area of focus curriculum too. You're seeing, I think, a picture of Will Getzman on the top left side there, who is the faculty director for the program. Will's been around for a long time. He spent the entirety of his education here at Yale. And then you'll see the classes that are offered here. And this is for the class, of course, that's incoming. Actually, I guess I should say the class that's currently about to take these classes. And we do roll with the punches and roll with the times. So while this is the list of class that students will take this year, that might change. And we've noticed changes happen as they are sort of required by what's going out there in the world. But I think these ones have actually pretty much been studied for the last couple of years. And I think it's important for us to bring up these classes so that you can then do your due diligence and ask yourself very honestly, are these the classes I want to take? Are these the courses I want to learn more about? These are not optional. These are the required curricula for each of the 3 areas of focus. So please hop on our website, dive into the syllabus, and get excited. And if you find yourself getting excited by the opportunity to dive deeper, then that's the area of focus for you. Always good to introduce you to our students and our alumni. From left to right, we have Daniel Coutinho. Daniel is actually from the Comoros Islands. He works at the World Bank. He provides recommendations, issues of governance, interfacing directly with the White House. Ishil in the middle has a master's already in both risk management and economics, but really wanted to broaden her business toolkit as she seeks sort of to accelerate in her career from a leadership perspective. And then finally, Renee Green, one of our female military veterans. She studied econ and Korean, spent a lot of years in the military as an intelligence specialist and a Korean translator. And then she transitioned into the private sector through Goldman Sachs' Veterans Integration Program. And now she's on her way to a new path in finance and focuses on asset servicing and operations for Goldman Sachs. Number 2, we talked about healthcare a minute ago. This is just one classroom of a bygone time when we used to host an in-person healthcare conference. The healthcare conference is Yale-wide, and in fact, we believe it's the largest healthcare conference for a student-run healthcare conference in the country. It brings together the resources of the schools of management, medicine, nursing, public health. And again, this is just one section of a day-long conference that happens annually. Healthcare hopefully is fairly obvious whether or not you sort of fit for healthcare or not. Having said that, we do have a variety of industries and profiles represented, from neonatologists to the chief of otolaryngology here at the Yale New Haven Hospital. We've got folks in med devices, we've got folks in nonprofit healthcare, we've got folks in the insurance space as well as our practitioners. So we really do aim for a pretty diverse group. On the left-hand side, you'll see the faculty director, Dr. Howard Foreman. Howie is really, we consider him the grandfather of this program, a practicing radiologist himself, as well as with appointments at, again, many schools here at Yale. He's also a prolific tweeter. He's been quite active in the response to the COVID crisis here in the US. So if you are thinking about healthcare, I highly recommend you Google Dr. Howard Foreman, and these are the classes that are offered. And I think a great example of where we have changed things a little bit is the population health and health equity class that popped up last year in very much in response to student requests to have more training in this space as it became a bigger and bigger issue in the healthcare space, more generally speaking. So again, look at these. If these sound exciting to you, then healthcare is the option for you. We've got some amazing alumni and current students in this space. The first person you'll see here, Dr. Charles Powell, is a pulmonologist from New York. I would definitely recommend you Google his name. He's done some really innovative work as a result of the COVID crisis. Lin Ji in the middle, who's working for Merck as a scientist on process commercialization technologies, working specifically in the space of AI. And Crystal Yates, who is one of our 3 inaugural Posen Commonwealth Fund Fellowship Fellows, which gives the opportunity for healthcare practitioners to come and train with us here in the MBA program, as well as get opportunities to further their work in the healthcare equity space. So please look into that if you fit that profile. But Crystal is the Deputy Commissioner of the entire Philadelphia Fire Department. As you can imagine, these days she's been quite busy and really using her MBA knowledge to not only further her career, but to certainly make an impact in her community at this time. So as you can see, it's a really diverse group. And this is only a small taste of what would be offered in terms of our alumni and our students in any one area of focus. Last but not least, is sustainability. This is the one we feel like is probably most broad from an industry perspective. And it's really about working, thinking about being forward-looking so that companies and organizations are prepared for and innovating through changes in technology, climate change. We do this in partnership with the Forestry and Environmental Studies School, Center for the Business and the Environment. Dr. Court, who is our faculty director here, has appointments in both spaces. And so you'll see him kind of crossing the street back and forth quite a bit. And really folks here are interested in combining business and the study of the environment and sustainability to solve these systemic environmental problems. Dr. Court, like I mentioned, is our faculty director, and here are the classes you would take. I sort of joke sometimes that if you don't believe in climate change, this might not quite be the program for you, but these are the issues that we're wrestling with in the sustainability space. Our alumni, equally as impressive in this space. Of course, you can see a variety of industries here. Anna, who's working in procurement, supply chain for a huge oil company in Texas. On the other hand, we have Decio, who has the word investment in his title, but he's working for a fund that integrates sustainability practices into traditional investment work. And then we've got Sammy in the second year class, about to join us again next week. Former right-hand man to the former CEO and Yale alumna of CEO of PepsiCo and Yale alumna Ingenuity. And now he sees the sustainability efforts for one of the largest food companies in the world. So we're really pleased to have this profile of students in our class. In the second year, you will, oh, sorry, Maria.
Yeah, I wanted to interrupt for just a second because we have a question about having to choose one of the 3 tracks.
Great.
Is this something that our program focuses on?
It does. You cannot just do the program. 6 of your classes in the second year will be area of focus courses. So you must choose one. You will do that in the application itself and convince the committee that the one that you've chosen makes the most sense for you. So if you have any specific questions about that, let us know. But there are opportunities in the application, in your essays. We have a small section of the application where we will ask you how your current work experience aligns with your chosen area of focus. And then you have an opportunity to talk about that in an interview if offered as well.
Great, thank you, Joanne.
Of course. Moving on with the second year, not only will you take these area of focus classes, but now it's time to dive a little bit deeper from what you've learned in the core curriculum. So there's a little bit of choice here. So as you can see, choices between one of 2 to make up 2 of those opportunities. And then everybody is going to take classes that we feel are the building blocks of business and really reflect what the most popular options are for full-time students who have a little bit more flexibility. These are the best of what Yale SOM has to offer. So everybody takes the classes in the dark blue, and then you'll have choices between the two pairs in the middle as well. And that's basically your second year.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanne. I know that there's like so much to share about our students and our faculty and the courses and kind of the impact and the outcome. And we have some additional opportunities for you too. So I guess what I would stress when talking about through these is that these are all kind of additive to your experience as you have the initiative and the capacity to take on some of these opportunities. So we have entrepreneurship opportunities with SCI Center, which is the Center for Innovative Thinking at Yale. We also have an entrepreneurship suite at Yale SOM with Assistant Dean, I believe, Kyle Jensen and Jen McFadden, who really take on students who are seeking to build out ideas. I don't know if they'll work with you all the way to scale, but in that ideation phase and really thinking about accelerating some of the work that you're interested in building. Yeah, there's certainly resources across SOM. Joanne mentions DBAE, which is the Center for Business and the Environment, and then of course SCI-City. You also will have opportunities to, let's see what the next photo is here, to focus on taking electives with what's called the Small Network Online Courses. I mentioned this briefly when I talked about the Global Network for Advanced Management. So through this partnership, courses are offered every semester on an elective basis, and you can take these classes at many of the different schools across all 32 business schools, should they be offering. And your courses will be maybe maximum of 30 students or so. So this isn't like a MOOC, which is a massive online course. This is something that you would work quite closely with a professor, other students at SOM and across the global network to really dive into specific topics. If you'd like more information about that, you can do a reference online to the Global Network for Advanced Management to see the offerings that come through. These are, I guess, other options that you would have. And these are very, I'm saying it takes time to develop these relationships with faculty, but there are opportunities to do independent research studies. This is really kind of has to be a synergistic experience so that you're, in working with your faculty, they also are very interested and excited about the project that you want to put together to provide that mentorship and advice. But of course, we've had students who have worked with faculty on, even like Joanne showed a picture of Roger Ibbotson. Some of our students worked with him to take the stock market game and put that into K through 12 schools to offer some financial literacy. We've had other students who have done research projects with faculty on, the asset class of art. So really interesting and unique ways to connect with faculty, but you want to make sure that that synergy is there and that there's some agreement and excitement on both ends. And then lastly, Joanne mentioned this really early on. Yale is yours. So not only are you a part of the School of Management, but you are a student at Yale University. And what that means is you have access to elective courses throughout each of the different graduate schools. So we have had students who have taken more courses outside of the structure that we've provided with the MBA program to take classes at the law school in corporate law, or they've taken additional courses at Yale SOM on different days that they were able to have some flexibility in their work schedule. So it's really up to you. It's really up to the initiative. We don't recommend that you take a ton of different courses in that first year or even that first semester, because the rigor of the program is quite intense, and we want to make sure that you can find success in the MBA program as you kick off. And quickly, we mentioned early on in that class schedule day, extracurricular or co-curricular activities. And so we have an amazing program team that really puts together some outstanding opportunities to really get to know Yale. So the top left is the Whale. It's the hockey rink. And so oftentimes we'll take students there to catch a game. Lower left is the Harvard-Yale game. Gosh, that must have been a couple of years ago. And but we usually get groups together. The center is Sterling Library. We've been to the Harkness Towers. We've been to the Beinecke Rare Books Library. There's just so much that there's to offer. And so we do our best to ensure that you're able to get a sense of it all. And then, as we also have offered, are some additional professional and personal development workshops, so that as you are developing inside the classroom through this curriculum, many of the leadership skills that you'll need, you're also given ample opportunity to also explore through practice and learning through different experts across Yale. So Mark Brackett, he is the director for the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale. He recently put out a book called Permission to Feel. He spends a couple of hours with our students introducing them to emotional intelligence and how to better build resilience, not only in themselves, but in their teams. Zoe Chance is a phenomenon here at Yale SOM. She teaches influence and persuasion around marketing and communications. Just a really wonderful treat to have her present to our students and work with them. And then lastly, from the Yale School of Drama, Grace Sandarsky, who is a coach to many, I guess, Academy Award-winning actors and actresses, and she brings our students this improv style of workshops so that people are able to get outside of themselves, shift up their body language, and really be able to present with executive presence. So these are just to name a few. These are probably the most attended, but we have a number of different additional workshops that are offered. And so with that, we've shared with you everything that you would need to know at some level. So Joanne, yes, I think we met the goal of the overview. And now we have a few more minutes to talk about admissions. So Joanne, as the director of admissions, can you please share with us, like, how does it work? What is the process, and why do we do it this way?
Of course, yeah. So as you can see from what Maria is putting up on the screen right now, it's all about a holistic process. So we are looking at every part of the application to make the best decisions possible for the student, for the program. And so our process is actually fairly straightforward. We have not made the application any more difficult or the process more onerous than it has to be. And so these are actually the steps that we take. We have 3 deadlines. We'll talk about that in a moment. But as you submit an application for the deadline, the committee goes into hunker down mode, and we start reading and evaluating applications, and then decide who will we like to invite to interview to learn more about this person and get to know them on a personal level, dig into their professional goal and their motivation for the program. For those that are offered the interview, we will do the interview. Previously on campus, we've moved to an online model now in light of COVID. With a staff member, with an alum. There's usually a group interview component as well, so also a very holistic process. With the information we then glean from the interview, we go back into committee to make final admissions decisions, and we do this per round. There is no rolling admissions, and it is very much deadline based. The final decision can be to be admitted, to be waitlisted and considered in another round, or unfortunately to be denied admission, in which case we'd invite you to try again in another year. Claudia, a ton of information on this slide. Do you want to go through this quickly?
Yeah, actually, I think the most important thing, all of this is going to be online, so you can always go to our website and learn more about the different components. Joanne mentioned we'll have an App Tips webinar in August, so certainly join us there, but please take note of these round deadlines. October 26th will be the first. Our application is likely to open mid-August, so you'll get a sense of what to expect if you're able to open it up then. But mark down these interview dates. I think it's really important to keep these dates kind of blocked off, because the way we're doing our interviews, it is important to be flexible and open in the case that you move forward to that level. But just hold on to these dates. We just have a few more minutes here, and I know that there are a couple of questions coming in. With all that said, we're going to move on to the Q&A component of this, and I know that we have one question here that's appreciative, and thank you so much, Krishna. You work in R&D in medical device company, and how does that count toward experience with healthcare focus? So I would jump in here and say that absolutely, we have a number of people who are coming from the R&D and life sciences, and oftentimes they work in biotech or biopharma, but I think that medical device organizations are also really aligned with healthcare. One thing that you'll want to know is that we're looking for a demonstrated commitment. So if you just started in the R&D space with the medical device last year, and this is the first time that you're working within healthcare, then we'd want you to have more experience. But if this is something that you've done and has really been a part of your life's purpose and mission, and you want to continue to have impact in that space, then certainly that would work for the healthcare.
I'd also jump in and encourage anybody who hasn't already done so to do a pre-assessment, and we can give you some more specific feedback on your profile through your resume or LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. And Joanne, we have another question that says, what's the minimum EA score that you would like to see?
We don't really have a minimum score. Generally speaking, through years of research, validity studies, the EMBA sort of community has come together to determine that a 150 on the EA is a great way to help determine readiness for an EMBA program. So that's a great score to shoot for. We certainly have people walking around who wish they had scores that were a little different than what they ended up with, but we do have a holistic process. And so we are eager to see what the EA says. And for us, it really does talk a lot about readiness for an EMBA program specifically. So that's a great one to reach for. A 10 on each section is also something we'd like to see. If you don't quite reach that threshold in your first attempt, give us a call and let's talk to see how we can advise you on either another shot at the EA, or there might be other ways that we would encourage you to shore up any potential weakness in readiness for the program.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. I think another question is really about, how do advanced degrees or certifications really help to, create a more competitive application? Do they increase chances of admission? So specifically a CPA, does that make a candidate look better?
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing the same question here twice. What can I do to sort of make myself look better or increase my chances of admission? It's a really tough question to answer. We have such a holistic process and everything really matters. A CPA, anything is never going to hurt. And people say, does it increase my chances? Not necessarily, but it's never going to be a bad thing. We're always impressed when people have time to dive into the areas that are most critical for them to do their jobs better. And so certifications, additional master's degrees, regardless of where they come from, we're not necessarily looking for Ivy League master's degrees here, but these are all good things. And so in our holistic process, it helps us answer the question, are you ready to be here academically? It's an incredibly rigorous, intensive, quant-heavy program. And so all of these pieces of information we glean from the application can help us to determine, again, your readiness and your fit for this type of academic experience.
Thank you, Joanne. I know that we're right at time now, and so I want to just extend another thank you to everybody who's joined today. We realize that this is kind of a redo of sorts in some ways from our last information session, but we wanted, again, I'll reiterate what Joanne said about joining us with a pre-assessment, so certainly see if you can fill out that form if you haven't already. If you'd like to schedule a call because you have more specific questions, you can email our EMBA inbox, and we can figure out how we can get on the phone with you. Here's our email, and this is our team, left to right. Wendy's our assistant dean, of course, Joanne, myself, and Liz Lewis is on the back end, and David Daniel as well is online with us today. So please feel free to reach out to any one of us. We're more than happy to help. We hope that you have enjoyed this segment. And Joanne, do you have any last parting thoughts before we wrap up?
Always, do that pre-assessment, get on our website, watch our great webinars. There's a terrific one on the EA that we did with somebody from GMAC who creates the EA, and that's a valuable one. And come back. We have a number of upcoming events virtual at this time, including a virtual reproduction of a Saturday information session, which normally would be in person, which will give you an opportunity to have lunch with students and peek into the classroom, again, virtually. So don't let this be the last thing that you do with us. Definitely continue, and know that our application for admission will open in August. So you can't apply right now. We're working on the application and all those updates on our end. We'll be back in touch with an announcement when the application will open, which will be mid-August. So keep an eye out for that. We look forward to reading your applications and meeting you virtually over the next couple of months.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.